Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Climate change and global warming are the scapegoats for the Democrats and radical environmentalists to deflect attention from their failed policies and the destruction caused by their own actions. In 2001, under Bill Clinton, the Forest Service adopted the Roadless rule, which was designed to deny access, management, and use to 58.5 million acres of National Forest Service lands. We warned at the time that this rule would cause catastrophic forest fires, reduce the amount of water available for communities for farming and other uses, and also result in catastrophic pine beetle outbreaks, which is in fact exactly what has occurred. Every single one of the things that we described would happen has in fact happened, and California has suffered maybe more than many of the states. Recently, the gentleman who ran the Forest Service under Joe Biden actually admitted in a hearing that the Roadless rule was one of the primary roadblocks to proper and effective forest range management. So to say that the government is always trying to fix its last solution, I don't think you need to look any further than the Roadless rule. California has essentially the same water infrastructure in place today with 40 million people that it had in the 1960s with 16 million people. So when we talk about putting conditions on the kind of relief that is going to be necessary to help to rebuild California, it must include additional water infrastructure and fire mitigation methods to avoid having these kinds of catastrophes happen ever again. I have an article that I have just recently pulled up. It stated that Newsom vetoed a bill to enhance fire mitigation so he could grab the land for affordable housing. This was a bill that was introduced in 2020, SB 182. It was authored by then State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson, a Democrat from Santa Barbara, whose district had just suffered the Thomas fire. This bill sought to increase local planning requirements and guidelines for permitting development in certain fire hazard severity zones. But what happened to that bill? It passed through both the Senate and the House. It was actually a very good bill. What happened? Mr. Newsom vetoed it. Why did he veto it? Because it did not comport with his idea of getting rid of single-family homes and pushing people into multifamily homes. And in his veto letter, he actually stated, wildfire resilience must become a more consistent part of land use and development decisions. However, whenever a politician uses the word however, you know they're going in the opposite direction, don't you? However, it must be done while meeting our housing needs. And for him, he wanted the money and the attention and the policy to focus on multifamily homes, not in protecting and hardening the resources available for the existing homes. So call me a bit skeptical when I hear the folks on the other side jump up and down and scream and yell about the fact that they've been doing everything necessary to try to harden and try to address these catastrophes when the exact opposite is in fact true. These catastrophes that we have seen over the last couple of months did not need to happen. This is not about climate change. This is not about global warming. This is about bad land use decisions, bad policies, and restrictions of being able to actually make the kinds of changes that must be made. Mr. Ring, while you were being questioned earlier, you mentioned the need for ESA reform and penalties for frivolous lawsuits, but I don't think that you had sufficient time to explain what you were referring to. Would you please explain what you were talking about?
Well, Steve has talked about this as well, and it applies to almost any kind of development or land use decision in California. There are laws, and it's not just CEQA, it's the California Air Quality Management, the CARB is a agency, and the Coastal Commission, which came up, but there's countless laws and regulations that provide grounds for lawsuits. One of the things that might be a very meaningful reform to CEQA would be to take away standing to third-party attorneys that truly have used CEQA as a business model and restrict CEQA lawsuits to district attorneys and the state attorney general. And by the way, when CEQA was signed by Governor Reagan in 1970, it was a two-page document that could be filed within weeks. And now it's an 800-page document that
Mr. Ring,
takes
the
years.
gentleman's time has expired.